Vikings versus Packers GMG pregame show. Good morning, Gallahorn. The gang is back, and we're here to discuss Packer Week. That team from Wisconsin that we all love to hate. Yes, we are traveling. We, as in the Minnesota Vikings, the 1-5 Minnesota Vikings, are traveling up to Lambeau Field on Sunday to meet Aaron Rodgers and the division leading. I don't even want to talk about him. Anyways, Drew, we have Drew the Base Ripper joining us today.
That's a flat E, boy. I got to work on that.
Yeah, you need to work on that.
What's up? What's up, lunatics? Good to see you guys again. Base Ripper coming to you live, ready to do this Lambeau Field preview game show with you guys.
Also, we have from the frozen north, from Fargo, the Dronester, the king of the jungle, Rhino. How you doing?
What up, boys? Oh,
what up, Rhino?
Same old. We're
ready to win this week?
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right. Did Minnesota win the bye week? That's the question of the day. Rhino, what do you think?
No, I bet the over on we were 6.5-point dogs, and I think I won about $100 on it. So. No, I mean, it was a weird off week. We had the whole Ngakoue deal, and basically there's been rumors of everybody under the sun, available for trade or in potential trade talks. And, to this point, there was just the one move. Sounds like we're trying to ditch some of the older veterans with the higher salaries, and all anybody wants is our promising up-and-coming youngsters. So
it's because what I think is because this is the COVID season, everything's so weird, and everybody's trying to get underneath the cap. They're ditching all their old veterans, and there's no value or very little value for the veterans because everybody's trying to get rid of theirs so they can be under the cap next year. And it's making it difficult. We'll see. I mean, there's rumors of Reef and Harrison and Thielen and Odenigbo today, which I thought was weird, but okay. There's also the youngsters. People have inquired about O'Neal. They've inquired about who was the other youngster they wanted? Irv Smith. And it's like, yeah, if the Vikings trade away those two, Spielman needs fired on the spot. Anyway,
well, he needs to be fired anyway, but yeah, even quicker.
We'll see. Trade deadline is Tuesday, the day everybody goes out and votes, if you haven't already. Drew, did we win the bye week?
The art of the fire sale. When it comes to a fire sale, there's a couple ways of looking at it. The teams kind of look at it from, this year's in the shitter. We're going to prepare for next year and try to get some build up with some draft picks. Get rid of some contracts, build up some draft picks. But to me, it's more a point of it shows that the regime doesn't know what they're doing to get to this point, as far as I'm concerned. And once it starts with one or two players, it always rolls into 8 or 10. It always does. And I understand a certain strategy to it because I watch hockey very closely, and every single year about the trade deadline, there's like 30 or 40 trade day. It's crazy because teams are trying to, do the next year thing and get rid of their It's usually one guy or two guys. It's usually never more than that. So I don't know.
Yeah, but this is the NFL
sale.
where trades aren't that prolific. They're actually pretty rare, but it seems this year will be different.
Yeah.
The Vikings are in a weird state right now. I mean, you start getting rid of people and start working on next year. What is that? What about the people that are responsible for getting it to this stage? Isn't there any accountability to that? I mean,
yeah, but they're going to throw up excuses after excuses.
Yeah, I mean,
so I don't know whether they won or lost the bye week.
I honestly don't know what kind of excuses they can walk into the Wolves with a straight face and say, this is why we are where we're at, other than the fact that, hey, we've made piss poor personnel decisions for the last 3 years, and now it's coming back to bite us in the ass.
They're going to claim, obviously, the injuries. We know Hunter's out, and we traded Enigma. But not. Yeah, every team has injuries, but not every team has injuries at key positions. If you lose your quarterback, are you going to win?
Quarterback?
The most key position. The most key position on the team.
Quarterback? No. Any other position, you got to figure as a head coach, you got to work around it and make it happen. And
but
I've seen
more
coaches do it all over the place.
Different positions are valued higher than other ones, and you can look at it by contract value, right? If you lose a running back, you got a backup. Okay, you can do committee. If you lose a defensive end, that's a higher rating, or a corner is a higher value on the defense, right, than most any other position. Whereas obviously the quarterback is the highest. Second to that on the offense is a wide receiver. You lose your key wide receiver or two key wide receivers, your chances go down because those are the guys that are scoring you points, or those are the guys that are preventing the scoring. Yes, it's a team game, but some are more valuable than others. We've had two defensive end starters in Ngakoue and Hunter gone. We've had linebackers gone, right? We have corners.
This is our weekly segment we do every week. The Zimmer excuse corner about the injuries. We do it every week. Tune in, people.
And then let's get to the corners, right? We've only had 1-2 week stretch where the same three corners started, right? And this week is no different. We have Gladney, who is the only one listed as healthy, and everybody else is out or limited. And it looks like it's going to be Gladney, Fields, and Hand as your starting corners.
Oh.
I mean, Fields and Hand should be on the practice squad. They're nowhere near that.
I was just saying, though, Dave, about the bad personnel decisions. We're overpaying for some of these favorite guys, the Zimmers and everybody else. So we're paying so much for the starters that we can't afford to have decent backups
that aren't making that much. Right, that aren't making the difference. Their position value isn't worth it, and they're not making the difference up because you gave them the contract. Now,
right, you overpay Anthony Barr, so you have to have Joe Bag of Donuts as your backup linebacker, who out of Bologna Tech.
Good old Joe Bag of Donuts.
Hey, Joe Bag of Donuts is good. He gets around everywhere. He's made a great career for himself.
Some holes in his game, though.
Yeah, but you get Troy Dye, who possibly returns back to the linebacking core this week. And we also get
guy's a rookie, and he's played one game.
Yeah.
So I'm not expecting him to come out and be, freaking Bruce Smith or somebody like that, or somebody that's going to be out there and all of a sudden become a absolute beast on the field. He's going to need time to get acclimated and stuff too.
No, it is decisions. It's a series of decisions that have put the team in this place. Now,
it's like a series of unfortunate events, but yeah.
And it's the question of who makes those decisions and have those decision makers convince the Wilfs that they could turn it around. Do they deserve a second chance to turn it around? The fans are fed up, and if we lose
behind the chainsaws,
if we lose like 50 to 20. Or 50-21 with Kirk Cousins getting, 3 garbage time touchdowns, people are going to be pissed.
People are already pissed. I mean, you can with Hunter and Barr, throw them in there all you want. The Vikings are probably still 1-5. I mean, it's not that much of a difference of what.
No, if you
having those two guys out, it's hurt having those two guys out and having the problems at corner, but this team's a mess, dude. It's a mess.
Well, and like the COVID excuse, like the comment I made in the group earlier this week. You're not. everybody's dealing with the same thing. You're not, Pete Carroll or some of these guys that are, 5-1 undefeated, whatever. They're not going into their GM or owner's office and saying, I realize that we got the best record in the league right now. And ordinarily I would come in here asking for a pay raise, but since COVID happened, I don't really deserve that right now. So, I'm not going to ask for a pay raise, even though we've got the best record in the freaking league. But COVID is only an excuse for a bad team.
Right.
Yeah, but they're going to use it.
I remember a few years ago.
It doesn't mean it's a good excuse.
I watched the Patriots a few years ago shredding people in the playoffs with 3 practice squad offensive linemen. So I don't want to hear shit about excuses. If you're a good coach, you scheme different.
Yeah, but you can't take the Pee Wee team off the corner and run them to the Super Bowl. The talent level isn't there.
I'm not going to buy any kind of fucking excuses for Mike Zimmer anymore. I'm done buying it.
So if we draft all 7 rounders, we need to coach them up and make them great.
You're still on the Zimmer bandwagon.
I'm just saying. No, I've called for all. Dude. I want all 3 of the 3 Stooges to be fired. But I'm saying
with all these 7 rounders, that falls back on Spielman for Mr. I'm going to take a shotgun blast at it, and from 2 miles away instead of a precision sniper shot. We're going to get.
But that's where Drew's argument is. It doesn't matter who you bring on the field. If the coach can't coach them up, it's the coach's fault.
We're not going to win a Super Bowl with Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman. I don't know how else to tell you guys that. It's over.
It's not going to happen.
It's over. They had their run. It's over. Mike Zimmer is a great defensive coordinator. He's a great defensive coach. By the way, things have transpired with all the players coming and going from there, some chipping their teeth on the way out. He doesn't have control of the locker room. I don't think guys like him anymore, and I think they've moved on. I don't know what they're going to do the rest of the season. We got a lot of games to play. It's not like we got 3 games to play and it's over.
No, we wish it was 3 games to play and it was over.
This is going to be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out. But, when I talked to Dave a lot in the past about this. We've been around so many times about it. I'm kind of burned out on, I know GM's a problem, but Dave wanted to blame the assistant coaches and the GM and then Pro Bowl players. There's always, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm just going to stick with what I think, and I think it's over. I think we should move on. I thought we should move on last February and get ahead of the game.
Right, but that didn't happen, and it may not happen this year, is what I'm telling you. It may not. You may be looking at Spielman and Zimmer next season.
How do you find a lower level than what's going on now? How the fuck can it get any worse?
Yeah, I mean, we're one step away from being the fucking Jets right now.
Well, I'm about to say we're not the Jets.
Okay, let me throw it back this way. Why are they still employed? Why?
You gotta ask the Wolves that. I can't answer that for you. I would have shit canned them a while ago.
I mean, okay, this is my theory. I brought it before we started here. That I was going to save for the show. The only thing I can think of, I mean, we all know. I mean, or at least none of us think that the Wolves are idiots. Realistically,
obviously,
I mean,
not when it comes to real estate.
Well, yeah, I mean, they wouldn't have made billions in the real estate industry in New York if they were idiots.
And New Jersey, yeah, and they've made billions.
Right.
So.
That's a good point,
right?
Man. That's a good point.
But the only thing I can think of is what's going on here now. Is maybe they understand. They do see what all the rest of us see, and they're going to let Rick and Mike run the damn thing into the ground for the rest of the year, because they know, hey, if we do that, we do have a chance at a Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, whoever. But if we tell Spielman right now, hey, sorry, dude, you had your chance, it's done, especially before the trade deadline, he could potentially start offloading people for pennies on the dollar.
He may do that anyways. He may have been given the permission to do that.
Right, but here again, okay,
it's just like the Ngakoue trade. He had to get the go-ahead from the Wilfs.
Well, yeah, you would think so, but like I said, maybe we'll let these guys run it into the ground the rest of the year, because we already know this year's screwed. By changing coaches and stuff, you may get that bump and win a half a dozen games or something, which is going to put us in a worse position for a draft pick. So, but I just don't see how these guys can think that you can trust the 2 guys that have ran it into the ground to right the ship. And I mean, we're sitting here with a broken rudder. It's just going in circles and going in circles. And it has been for years. I mean, we all know Rick's the master of the bullshit, but.
Yeah, but they got to the playoffs numerous times.
Every other year.
One and done.
Yeah, every other year. And, that brings in fans. It brings in people buying merchandise. That's a good thing. This year is the aberration, if you want to call it that, from a normal Zimmer standpoint.
Over.
No, it's not an aberration. We're doing that every other year. It's good. Miss the playoffs, make the playoffs. Miss the playoffs, make the playoffs.
Yeah, but it's barely missed the playoffs. It's 7-9, 8-8, type of deal versus. Well, they were in it towards the end.
It doesn't matter if you're 7-9 or 1-13.
Oh, yes, it does. I'll explain. If the team's 1-5, like it is now,
Jesus.
how many people want to watch the game Sunday?
Is this a math question? Because I was told there was no math on the show.
All right. Now, if the team is 8-7 going into the last week, fighting for that playoff spot on national TV, going to go play Chicago Bears, how many people are watching then? It's a national viewership means dollars to the owners.
So they don't lock up the playoff spot 3 weeks beforehand because they want viewership to run it at the end?
No. If they could lock it up 3 weeks before, then they're going for the higher spots. But what I'm saying is that
I like every other year.
That close to it is better than 1-15 because by halfway through the season, if the Vikings keep losing, they're going to lose viewership. Nobody's buying jerseys because what jersey are you going to buy?
But maybe it is better if you can get a Justin Herbert or a Joe Burrow. Maybe it is better. Fuck.
Right.
I agree, but
the problem with your whole argument there, Dave, is what is the problem with this franchise and with a lot of the fan base is we're satisfied with mediocrity. Oh, we'll make the playoffs once every couple of years. That's great and wonderful. Hey, we might even win a wild card game and then get our asses rolled the next week. But hey, at least we didn't. It's the king. Like Drew always says, it's the king of the dipshit teams. This year we're the dipshit of the dipshit teams, so we're not even the king. But
but the Vikings and Vikings fans have been ingrained in that for generations.
Yeah, but we should demand more as a fan base. We should if we're not competing for winning the division and competing for the Super Bowl, which we do around here, once every 10 years we might make the NFC Championship game and then we get our asses handed to us.
It averages, I think it's once every 9, and it's once every 10 that we have a really tanky season like this one.
Right, which usually follows after the year before we just did the NFC.
Right, yeah, within a couple years. Yeah.
Are we like 0-5 or 0-6 in our last NFC title game run?
I think it's like 0-6. I believe so.
Well, we're 0 and however many it's been since 1977, but yeah.
Oh, and we've had 5 or 6 chances to get. We're one game away, and we always seem to blow it in that situation. But
yeah, we had 17, we had 11, or 9, we had 2000.
This season's over. I want to move on.
Moving on, have you got any numbers for the Packers game?
I got numbers, but we're going to get into numbers first or get into the Packers game, the strategy of what needs to happen in this game.
Oh, you can tell me that. I'm curious. How are we going to win this game?
I know we're down corners, and I'd like Rhino's breakdown on this also. I know we're down corners in the defense, and I know our ranking on defense is pretty piss poor. What are we, 28th overall, giving up 413 yards a game? But it's all going to start with the defense in this, and it always starts with Aaron Rodgers. The best way to compare it, being we just played in week 1, is to go back and look at week 1. I don't know. People were saying, well, it's just week 1. I remember our in the Raw after that, it was pretty intense. We all watched the Vikings get run out of the stadium, but 522 yards, 31 first downs. Rodgers was 364 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Was it like 48 minutes of time of possession or some ungodly number like that too?
It was 48 minutes time of possession to 16 or 18, or whatever the difference is on that. Adams had Adam. Okay, Adam. Here's what really irritated me in that game. Irritated me. Like Screaming Joe at the feed store I used to work at when I was 14. I used to work at this feed store with this fucking guy. He owned it and he'd scream at me. We called him Screaming Joe. But that's another story for another day. We'll get to Screaming Joe later. Adams had 14 catches for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. We all know Adams is good. I'm telling you, 8 to 10 of those catches were on that 8-yard square out because the Vikings were playing too far off the receiver. The Vikings were playing 15 yards off the receiver. And you know what I caught about the halfway or 3/4 of the way through the second quarter? Rodgers ran it for like the 6th time and hit Adams out there, and the Vikings weren't adjusting to it. And he started laughing because he figured if you're just going to give me that pass all day, I'm going to take it. And he kept doing it and doing it and doing it. That's how he racked up 14 catches for all that yardage. The Vikings sat back. Now, how many times David Zimmer played against Rodgers? He knows if you're going to play 15 yards off the receiver, you might as well not even take the field against Aaron Rodgers. It's over. Right. I don't know if he was.
And usually the Zimmer versus Rodgers matchups have been very good.
I don't know whether he was so nervous about his young wideouts being or young
corners, and it was the corners.
But once you got burned on it, Rhino, 8 times, you fucking gotta move them up. You can't leave them back there 15 yards off the line of scrimmage. You can't do it. They're gonna. You have to adjust. Why didn't Zimmer? You got at some point you got to adjust and say, if they beat me over the top, they beat me. But I'm not going to sit here and watch Devante Adams run that fucking square out over and over again, and Rodgers just toss it out. It's like playing catch with your kid. It's so easy. It's automatic. It's easy. And they did no adjusting. That's what bugs me about it, and that's what I'm afraid we're going to face this week. The same thing over again.
And the problem with some of, for whatever reason, Zimmer keeps wanting to run, his press or man coverage on all this stuff. But realistically, right now, especially now when we're down to basically one of the guys that we started the season with healthy to play this week, you got to switch it up, play some more zone, do whatever you need to do just to.
But you'd be surprised.
You can't give up.
They have been playing mostly cover 2 zone because it's simple compared to the man-on-man. Dantzler's had more man-on situations than just about any other corner. But
those have been the ones where we get burned on, it seems like.
Well, because
he doesn't have the safety help over the top or whatever happens. But
and the corners don't know how to use the safeties for leverage yet. They'll get that with time. They'll learn, but they don't, and it's been a disaster. Even simplified. I believe Mike Zimmer, and it may have been somebody else, has talked about how they're running zone because it's easier on the corners versus the man stuff because they can't do the typical Zimmer defense. They can't handle it yet. They don't understand it. They don't understand the reads. They don't understand how it all works yet. And that's another excuse. But
522 yards. 522.
32 points per game.
Honestly, it could be worse than that 522 this week because we're down corners. And we're down pass rushers.
43-34. The Vikings scored 24 points in the last quarter. So it ain't no 43-24. That was a 40-0 blowout. Those last 24 are just to doctor the score up. They kicked our ass. We didn't sack Rodgers one time. Not one time did they sack Rodgers.
And we had Ngakoue that game. I mean, our starting ends this week are going to probably be Odenigbo and DJ Wanham. I mean,
and Wanham's a rookie.
They both got a couple of sacks this year, but it's not exactly it's not the Purple People Eaters by any stretch of the imagination as far as, Rodgers being concerned about getting pressure in his face.
Well, we all consider Andre Patterson the best defensive line coach in the league, but even he's got his work cut out for him.
Yeah.
This being down corners in this game with the deficiency now that Ngakwe's gone, he's obviously your best pass rusher. This is a big problem for Sunday. The Vikings are going to need some turnovers, maybe a freaky punt return touchdown. They're going to need some weird shit to happen to pull this game out, I think, because that team from Wisconsin, they're ready to play, and they know what they're doing. They know what they want to do, and they worked it pretty easy. That was a pretty easy win week 1, guys. That was pretty easy.
Oh, absolutely was it.
Offensively, the Vikings did some good things. I mean, Thielen had 6 catches for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns, and we ran for 134 as a team, which isn't very shabby. I mean, that's pretty good offensively.
Well, how do you see the Vikings offense? The Vikings offense will be any sort of key to us winning this weekend. How do you see them performing? And do we see Dalvin Cook back?
Rhino?
I mean, honestly, with a groin injury, even if Dalvin does play, I have a hard time thinking he's going to be at 100%. We're only 2 weeks removed from it, and anybody who's had a groin injury knows those can linger for. Well, yeah, we had to bye week in the game against the Falcons, but
I used to get those in the 80s quite often.
Well, and back when I played ball, I'd get them, but you can stretch them out and you can warm it up and be effective.
Yeah,
Gene Stefano with the leather helmet.
Back in the leather helmet days, yes.
back in those days, yeah.
No, actually, it was in the big shoulder pad days, and I.
What was your signing bonus? Some fucking old number 7 whiskey?
Yeah.
Your signing bonus?
Hey, I got stories about that, but yes,
I bet
something
you do.
similar. But the offense is going to be key. Kirk Cousins has got to come out and have a good game, start hitting early, and build the confidence. Because if he doesn't,
let's rephrase that. He needs to start hitting our players early, not.
Yes,
not throwing an interception on the first play of the freaking game like he did last time. But one thing that's different.
Last time we were down 21-0 or something, right? I mean,
21-0 or 21-3 or something like that. Yeah, but one thing now, that we really didn't use Jefferson that first game, so that's something to our benefit this time. You got 2 guys you got to account for instead of just one.
I believe it was said in one of his press conferences today. After the coach's press conference to bring on the players, Jefferson came on and they asked him about that first game. And he says, "I hadn't a clue what I was doing that first game." He says, "I've grown so much since then. It's night and day."
Well,
he goes, "I watched what I did,
because our coaching staff doesn't have a clue what they're doing, and we're in week 8 now. So
we might have to score 45 points to 50 points to win this game.
That's what I'm thinking. If we have a chance to win, it's going to be a shootout. And to be a shootout, Kirk Cousins has to start out hot. And we haven't seen that in a while.
And realistically, I think the only chance we got is if we can get the run game going and keep Rodgers off the field, because he's going to eat our secondary alive. I mean, no offense to Gladney, but when you got Mark Fields and Harrison Hand, who, they're again, these guys aren't going to be wearing a gold jacket anytime soon.
Yeah, both should be on the practice squad.
Right. So you got those guys that are trying to cover Devante Adams and Valdez-Scantling. Anybody else that got, and then our linebackers too, I see Tanyan he was questionable today, I think, or limited in their on practice. So he's really come on lately too. So that's just one other thing we got to look up.
Aaron Jones is out.
Is he officially
out?
out?
Not going to play. Well, it hasn't been official yet, but I did a little research before the show because I wanted to try to be a good employee, so Dave didn't fire me. And Lafleur said he's probably going to go to Jamal Williams. If he's saying that now, he's not going to play. He could play, but they want to give him another week of rest. And Williams is no hacker, but Aaron Jones is a pretty good football player. So not having him is probably going to help us a little bit.
Your injury report for the Vikings versus Packers. Your Minnesota Vikings had a couple significant moves this week. First off, Mike Hughes was placed on IR for his neck. Holton Hill is listed as out, continues to be. And Dalvin Cook had a full practice on Friday, but is still listed as questionable. Also, for Friday, Dan Chisnia, the special teams ace, did not practice and is now on the report as questionable. For your Green Bay Packers, they have Aaron Jones has already been listed out. Kevin King, the corner, is already listed as out. And they have a list of questionables, including David Bakhtiari, Mason Crosby, Tyler Urban, Raven Green, Tyler Lancaster, John Lovett, and Darnell Savage.
Hey, what is this Zimmer Lafleur matchup? What number is this?
5.
Son of
and
a
we're
bitch,
on. It's 0-4 to this point.
It's 0-4.
Oh. It's all quiet.
Fudge Packers have owned us.
How much,
there's been some close games, and there's games we could have won. But
I don't fall into tanking when it comes to these guys. I know back of your mind, you think the Vikings blow a game that's one game closer to a higher pick with the quarterback they need and Lance and Fields and Lawrence. We've been through that 1,000 times. Not this team. I can't stand that team from Wisconsin.
Well, how growing up,
Vikings win one more game the whole season. I want it to be Sunday.
Yeah.
How growing up, we always said if we win the division, that's great. But what's a successful season? If we beat the Packers, always we could finish 2-14. If both those wins are against the Packers, it's a successful season.
But the thing, when we were all growing up, Green Bay was horrible from 1967 to 1991. So
yeah, but then they hit 91, and then they've been
Favre showed up, and
they've had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks for that time.
Right.
Chicago's had like 24 quarterbacks for that time. They've had 2.
I think back when Francis was quarterback, and we probably had more ties against him than losses. When I was a kid, I never remembered losing. And we never lost to them, dude.
That was when both teams were good.
Yeah.
But
no, the Pack at the 60s, not the 70s, though.
Right.
We started kicking their ass in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
But to win,
the 70s was our decade. But yeah.
Right now, I saw that I think the over/under is 50.5.
What's the line on the Viking game right now?
6.5.
That's it.
That's it. Which surprises me. I'd expect 2 touchdowns, but 6.5.
No, not that high. It's right around 10.
Yeah, and honestly, I would be thinking that 50.5 or whatever you said, that might be even a bit low because Green Bay could hang 50 on us by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And
if they go up 30-0 by the first half, and then we hit garbage time for the rest, and Kirk Cousins will catch fire and throw.
Pat his stats, and and then we'll lose by 10, and it'll look a lot better.
The Vikings have got to make this a game. From the standpoint of the pride of the team, they're playing for each other. It's the Minnesota Vikings. You can't. This is a big rivalry game. You can't lay down and die in this game. You got to find a way to be competitive and get it done. You have to. Come on, man.
I've listened to some podcasts with beat writers and other casters that follow the Packers, and they're talking to the Vikings counterparts and going, "What's wrong with you guys this year?"
Would you like a list?
The Vikings are not a 1-5 team. That's another argument I'll take to Zimmer and sit at his desk and argue with him about. Your roster's not 1-5, dude. Take injuries or not, you're not.
Right.
You're better than that. You're a better team than 1-5. Come on, dude.
You are, but what your record is.
Right. But now, here's another thing, and I brought this up earlier in the week too. Okay, now the word is out, basically half of the freaking team is available for trade, whether it's Rudolph, whether it's theoretically Thielen, we've heard rumors about, Reef, all these other guys. How is that going to affect the locker room? I mean, are these guys going to, are they going to mail it in now and say, okay, my time here might not be very long. It's at the very most, it's going to be the end of the year anyway. So why the hell should I care?
Fair question. 100% fair question.
Or are they going to flip the bird and play harder because they want to, show that they still got it for their next team? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different ways this can go, but I mean, as it hasn't gone bad enough, I can see this.
Reef may go, I play my ass off for this game and I get traded the next day.
Right. Well, and Reef has still got to be pissed as hell because they made him take a pay cut so they could sign Ngakoue only to get rid of him 8 weeks or 6 weeks later and, move down 50 spots in the draft. And I bet Reef is sitting there, you sons of,
What about, could it be possible that Zimmer and Spielman would use a fire sale as an excuse to keep their job for next year?
Yeah, it's quite possible, and that's been discussed across the board, that part of this is part of the moves made in the off season with extending Cousins and all of that, and then Ngakoue and then getting rid of Ngakoue has all been part of a cover our and keep us employed move. That we extend Cousins. Now you got to keep us because we're mated with Cousins, or we're now having a fire sale. We've gone to you. You've given us permission. You got to keep us. And they may have gotten permission to do this. We don't know. We don't know how much communication goes on between all the 3 entities, be it the Wilfs, be it Spielman, and be it Zimmer, because I don't think I think early on in this whole marriage, Zimmer and Spielman talked quite a bit. I don't think that's happening as much now, but that's just a theory I have.
But here again, what the guys that are responsible for putting us in this mess, you're gonna entrust them to fix it. That's like I hate talking politics. That's like I hate talking politics, but that's like a politician who's been in Washington for 40 freaking years coming and saying all of a sudden, I got all the answers and I'm going to fix all this shit that I helped screw up for the last 4 freaking decades. I mean, that's basically what Spielman and Zimmer are doing right now. We have effed this thing up so damn bad the last 4 years that the only thing you can do is let us fix it. How does that make sense?
Yeah, but
they're the ones responsible. They're responsible for the team.
100%.
But the Wilf wants stability, and if you look back in history,
stability is just asinine.
Hey,
that's ridiculous.
If you look down at who won Super Bowls and win, some of them took over a decade to do such.
Yeah,
Come on, man.
There's two coaches in NFL history in the Super Bowl era that have won a Super Bowl after being with their team for 5 years, and Zimmer's not going to be the third.
No.
Yeah, but it took Andy Reid 21 years to win his first.
Yeah, but Andy Reid has also developed and changed with the times as got along with. I mean, Andy Reid is still considered one of the most innovative offensive minds in the league.
But
Zimmer's still stuck in 1993 with his theology and his statuses. He's running the same damn defense he did in Dallas back in the early 80s.
You know what? I'm a big fan of Rhino, dude. Rhino, if you start your own pod, you're number one fan, dude. You bring it. He brings it. He brings the truth. He doesn't mask his shit with excuses and lies.
It isn't us.
He brings
it's the Wilfs.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I keep going back to this. The Wilfs aren't stupid. And they can't just sit there, Rick Spielman just told us that it's going to be great and wonderful because he's so smart and he knows what he's doing and he's going to get 87 seventh-round picks and find every undrafted free agent that should have never been picked in the first place, and we're going to find one guy out of there that's fucking awesome.
How can they tell this fan base to look forward to next year we're going to win the Super Bowl? How can they sell that to any of us?
You can't sell 2021 as being a successful year to anybody.
Such a disaster.
2022 maybe, but not 2021.
They'll say all our injured players will be back. The rookies will have a year experience under them.
They're going to follow
Zimmer's done.
It's going to be the same freaking song and dance that they threw at us before the season started this year. Everybody's talking, the Vikings are one of the favorites to win the division this year, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but look what happened. And trying the same thing over and over and expecting different results is not the recipe for success. It's the definition of insanity.
And Dave, I know you're a big Zimmer guy. I know you guys drink ale together or whatever, but he doesn't have the fire he used to. It's gone, dude. He's not the same guy.
I blame that on his girlfriend. But anyways, with that,
he still don't blame him. Zimmer is fucking blameless. He doesn't get blamed for shit.
And if that's the case, if I was 62 years old and had a girlfriend like Zimmer, I'd be walking in.
Always something. The assistant coaches are shit. Players don't execute. You're the fucking head coach. If you can't, if your team is shit, then leave, resign, move on to the next thing.
Well, that's what I would expect. I would
retire to your Kentucky ranch and sit.
He puts in his resignation and say, "I couldn't turn this around."
Zimmer can't do his job correctly because he has a hot girlfriend. Wow. Well,
no, I told that story. It tends to divert your attention.
I'd have to get a hot girlfriend before I could try that excuse with him.
The Zimmer excuses are up, and I don't want to keep rehashing it, but we need something to look forward to for next season, and it's obvious that Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer have ran the court. It's over. I don't know how else
you say that, but until the Wilfs say that, it's not.
But like Drew said earlier, how could anybody be enthusiastic about 2021 if we roll out the same goddamn shit we have right now?
You can't
because they won the previous 5 years.
They won 3 of the previous 5 years.
Well, but they won.
The head coach
and they were close.
Relic ways have been caught up with. He's an old relic. The ways have been caught up with. Zimmer's not an innovative young mind thinking about, he's coaching.
But he relatively has been on defense. It's the offense that hasn't performed.
Well, hire a better coordinator. He hires coordinators. He hired DeFilippo. What excuse you got for that? Give me an excuse for why Mike Zimmer. Oh, I remember I talked to you about it. You said, oh, so that was Rick Spielman's deal, Drew. That's horse shit. When does Zimmer get some blame for all this?
Zimmer hired DeFilippo because the Eagles
the coach hires the coordinators.
The Eagles figured out his defense in the 2017 NFC Championship game, and Zimmer wanted to find out how the hell they did it. The problem is he hired the only guy on the Eagles offensive staff that didn't have a clue what was going on. The only people who knew what was going on is Frank Reich, and he's now in Indy, and Doug Peterson, who's still running the show in Philly. DeFilippo was just there.
Anyways,
DeFilippo was just there to buy coffee for the guys.
I need last words. My dog, Olive here, is whining at me. She needs to go out. So, final words, Rhino.
I mean, like Drew was saying before, I mean, if we don't win another game this year, this is the game that I want to win. I mean, I'm all about building for the future and all this stuff, but goddamn, I hate losing to that team from Wisconsin. I want to say that it could surprise us. Nobody's given us a damn chance. We could come out here and sneak it out, but with the cornerback issues and things we're down to a couple of pass rushers who've never been full-time starters. We're down linebackers. I mean, I'm going to be surprised if we can hold them under 40. So, I mean, realistically, I think Green Bay beats us probably 48-30. We're going to get some garbage time points. They're going to be up big. Cousins is going to do his numbers the same thing he always does. He's going to throw for 3-4 touchdowns, and his stat line's going to look good. And everybody's going to say, it's not Cousins' fault. It's the defense's fault or whatever it is. But, I mean, I really hope they surprise me, but I just don't see how we have a chance in this game.
Drew?
We're going to lose. But I'm going to spend my time and give a shout out to our good friend, Mr. Ted Glover. Ted, I know it's been a tough week. Suffered a death in the family. And I just wanted to say that we love you and we're here for you. And we're looking forward to having you on the show again. And I know it's a tough week, and I know something that might make him feel better is if we did figure out a way to win this game. But shout out to you, Ted Glover.
Absolutely. Ted, our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. With that, everybody else, it is Packer week. We do want to beat them. Even though it's unlikely, we do. And by all means, Skol Vikings! Thank you for watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. Skol, everybody.